This video is brought to you by viewers like you. Thanks for letting me do this for so long. Well, would you look at that? That sure looks like March to me. It has kind of snuck up out of nowhere because mentally, I'm going to be honest, I never escaped 2024. But sometimes you have to look towards the future in hope that industry professionals actually won't let you down for a change. I'm kidding, gaming's in a pretty good place right now if you ignore all the other existential crises that threaten creativity and our wallets and our very way of life. 2025 should be a baller year for games, with plenty of exciting projects on the way, but I want to narrow it down to just 5 of them that I hope and pray don't crash and burn, or even worse, end up getting delayed until 2026 and making me look like a fool. Listen, it's not all bad news. If literally nothing good comes out of this year, at least I'm still getting married. God, I hope nothing good comes out in August, or the honeymoon's gonna get awkward. Not too much to ask for, I hope. I've been doing this for long enough to drape most of this video in a thin veneer of cautious optimism. You know, I've been excited and sadly overexcited about games before, but those experiences have hardened my thoughts that, hey, sometimes games just aren't as good as they might appear from early trailers. If it sounds like I'm being really negative for no reason, I put it to you that Marvel 1943 Rise of Hydra has shown plenty of promise, but nothing too concrete to be genuinely excited for. Maybe this will be the next big AAA superhero gaming experience that uses Unreal Engine 5 like a master artist wields a paintbrush, and it sweeps up every award at the end of the year as the new gold standard for 21st century entertainment, but something tells me it won't quite be that simple. However, given where we find ourselves with Marvel rivals building on the Spider-Man games and Arcane working on a Blade game and Insomniac knee-deep in a Wolverine game, it's a pretty decent time for video games based on Marvel properties. I suppose the films are undergoing a bit of an emergency restructure to stave off the inevitable fatigue for as long as possible, which kinda leaves Marvel's games open to fill the gap in pop culture should the need arise. The fun side of Marvel 1943 is that the tiny snippet of a trailer we've seen has been so geared towards being cinematic and movie-like that it speaks towards the direction this game ends up going in. Obviously, it's a planet-sized if, but if Rise of Hydra ends up looking like this throughout, with a few compromises when it comes to moment-to-moment gameplay, then damn, this will go down very nicely indeed. Marvel Rivals has taught me that Black Panther will be more enjoyable to play as than Captain America, but it's World War II, so Cap will probably get a gun to go with a shield, and hey, maybe he's more suited to single player anyway. I don't know, I just hope it's good, and it definitely has the capacity to be a lot more than that. That alone is worth being excited about. Not sure if anyone is ready for an unprovoked attack on their age, but if you are truly ready to feel old, Undertale is now 10 years old. I know, right? I'm sorry to break that news for you if you've, up until this point, lived a life of blissful unawareness that you are in fact fucking ancient, and so am I. But Undertale has been in the public consciousness for a decade at this point. And yet somehow we're still stuck at just 2 parts of Deltarune? How's that fair? We haven't had a new one since 2021, and yes, I get it that Toby Fox and his team of talented boys and girls have been working hard to get more parts of it out into the world, but I need more of it to sink my teeth into kind of now. I still remember when the first Deltarune was called Survey Program or some shit like that, and I think I've only just recovered from the way it morphed itself into a fully fledged video game with so many wonderful moments. And now finally, many years later, we're on the verge of getting not 1, but 2 new chapters at once, with Deltarune Chapter 3 and 4 set to drop into our laps at some point in 2025. Or at least that's what Mr. Fox has said. I would love to know what's going on with all these characters, and if Spamton is still around to scream sweet nothings about crazy deals in my ear. I still admire Toby Fox's ability to not only create unbelievably unique scenarios that set each of his games apart, but also for creating some immensely memorable characters who just exude the kind of charisma that can really carry a game with ease. Chapters 3 and 4 are being released as part of the full paid version of Deltarune, so not only will we hopefully have the full picture at that point, we'll have at least half a game that has had effort put into it that justifies charging money for it. That may sound a little bit weird, but if the first 2 chapters were that good and also free, how good are the next 2 then? That's just economics at that point. So I need to preface this next one with the knowledge that I'm recording this before the Pokemon Presents, which is on the Thursday. I'm hoping this video comes out on a Sunday, but I wrote this whole script and I don't just want to chuck it away. So if Pokemon Presents comes in and is radically different and gives us information about the following game, then wonderful, but I don't want to scrap my work because I haven't done all that much of it since the start of the year. I have to read what I've written, otherwise I'll go fucking insane, but here you go. Now that people have become accustomed to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, it'll be fascinating to see how people feel about the future of Pokemon as a franchise. As a media empire, it's disgusting. It's like Japanese Disney with the ability to slap a yellow mouse on literally anything and not only make it cute, but sickeningly profitable. The global icon of Pokemon isn't under any threat so long as conventional money retains some semblance of value and bottle caps remain recyclables, but away from the brand, the games themselves are undergoing some kind of continuous metamorphosis. Game Freak are catching up with the rest of the world at a shuckle's pace, and they may well make a game in the future that fewer people will complain about since it has all 2,000 Pokemon in it and some fucking gorgeous trees! But until this magical point in time, we can just look forward to the prospect of a new Pokemon Legends game. Which isn't quite the same, but it's definitely exciting. Legends Arceus was a breath of fresh air in the same way as recovering from a heavy cold. It wasn't perfect by any real metric, but it felt so unbelievably good seeing a mainline Pokemon game take a genuine risk. I know spin-off games are prone to doing wacky things with Pokemon, but Legends Arceus managed to depart from many series conventions in an attempt to be more engaging than any previous Pokemon game had ever been, basically. If anything, the fact that Legends Arceus was a little rough around the edges and occasionally ugly as sin means that the bar isn't too impossibly high that Legends ZA couldn't possibly clear, which sounds like an opportunity to me. The issue is that we've heard pretty much nothing since almost a year ago at this point, but the main two things to know are that it's set in Kalos and apparently entirely within Lumio City, so not sure how that's gonna work exactly. The trailer also teased Mega Evolutions making a return, which, of all the goofy, stupidly broken mechanics that Game Freak have messed around with in the last decade, they're probably the most popular. So as long as Flygon, Aegislash, and Unknown get Megas, I'm happy. Make sure that fucker looks terrifying. It's hard to put into words just how much of the gaming landscape has changed since Metroid Prime 4 was first announced. In case you've forgotten, and frankly I do not blame you at all, we got a trailer for this thing 3 months after the Switch came out, which promised absolutely nothing except for an eventual continuation of the Prime series, which on its own is a pretty exciting statement. This was at a time when confidence in Metroid was effectively at rock bottom, since the last Metroid game on a home console was Other M, and the last game of any shape or size was Federation Force. So it was good news at just the right time, but as the years rumbled on, the lack of any news became telling, and Metroid Prime 4 went from being a game that was well into development in 2018 to having development restarted altogether at the start of 2019. I've been following games for a while now, and I can't think of too many times when a game has completely restarted its development, with Prime 4 having started with Bandai Namco before Retro Studios were drafted in to salvage something that had not met Nintendo's standards. This is all just a lengthy way of saying that my hopes for Metroid Prime 4 are a lot healthier than my expectations. It is of course encouraging that Nintendo decided to restart development, since it means that their internal quality control saw whatever kind of dumpster fire had been created originally and didn't just ship it out to meet quarterly targets. It kinda reminds me of the approach they took with Tears of the Kingdom, where they prioritized game polish over shipping a mostly ready video game, and hopefully this restarted development has ultimately done some good for this game. We did get a gameplay trailer and a title after all this time, so that's more of a return on Nintendo's investment than we ever got out of Namco, and honestly, it looks kinda decent. I'm always cautious of environmental background effects since No Man's Sky has permanently given me trust issues, but that was the first thing that stood out to me. Metroid Prime games were always so good at world building, both on a larger scale with beautiful environments and atmospheric music, but also on a smaller scale thanks to everything you can scan for more details. And if Metroid Prime 4 can do this bit well, then I think we're onto a winner. Anyway, say all of this quietly before Nintendo restarts development again. Don't give them any ideas. Could you imagine if I made this video and somehow forgot to talk about GTA 6? I don't think anyone has made this equivalent video and not mentioned it in some capacity, and how can you honestly not? GTA 5 was, and somehow still is, one of the biggest and most popular games of all time, by Rockstar capitalizing on its longevity by going full Todd Howard and spreading it across 3 consecutive console generations. So just in case you missed it the first time, you got plenty of chances to buy it again. Between its frankly ridiculous sales figures and the fact that it's so publicly relevant that you can't go 5 seconds without seeing GTA 5 in your suggested video feed on YouTube, a sequel was not just expected but guaranteed in every physical way possible. You don't make $8.5 billion and then just call it a day. No one does that. It has been a while though. If GTA 6 releases this year, it would have been 12 years since the last one. And you can blame GTA Online for being so lucrative for so long that Rockstar never felt they needed to do anything else. Clearly they bought themselves enough time that they feel as though they put enough work into the sequel to release it kinda soon. How soon is a great question though, and if it wasn't for the leaks a few years back, I'd feel a lot more confident in saying that 2025 will be GTA 6's year. The leaks were of an early enough version of the game that you'd be forgiven for thinking that the 50 minutes of footage were from a convincing fan game, but after sources from Rockstar confirmed that the footage was genuine, it does offer some degree of insight into what we can expect from GTA 6. Make no mistake at all, GTA 6 coming out is just about the most significant game released of the last decade, and it will send shockwaves throughout the industry, kind of regardless of how amazing or otherwise GTA 6 turns out. Rockstar has an almost mythical approach to major releases, and to say that GTA 6 comes with a lot of pressure attached to it would be underplaying things to a borderline offensive extent. It's the sort of game where other publishers are reluctant to commit to a deadline for their releases, since they don't want to be competing with a Texas-sized asteroid that may well land with a tsunami splash before the end of the year. Whether or not Rockstar can meet expectations is one thing, but every detail will be picked apart within days of GTA 6 coming out. There is much work to do. And yeah, that's my list of the most exciting games of 2025. Do you agree, or is there something that I've missed off of number 1? Let me know in a comment down below, and if you enjoyed the video, make sure you like and hit subscribe for more videos in the future, and hit that bell for notifications of more uploads. The last video I made was the best games of 2024, so make sure you check that out. And I also want to thank my top supporters on Patreon, including the Green Scorpion, Rima Pro, and Sarah Malion. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.